Well, it looks like we are back with another faction overview and buying guide for you amazing Code 1 players. However, this one could be a little bit different, both in terms of me just optimising the video format, but also because O12 are in fact the first faction that I bought into, and are one of the factions that I play. I was massively attracted to their cyberpunk cop vibe, and I felt like they really typify the Infinity visual style. In this overview, we're going to give a little snippet of lore, followed by an overview of all of the main units, their Code 1 profiles, and how you can buy them. The only thing we're going to be missing out are the characters and the mercenaries that work for several factions, and that's so that later we can do a separate video where we actually look a little bit into who those characters are at the same time as discussing them. So before we go diving headlong into all of that, don't forget, if you enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like it, and please consider subscribing to the channel and enabling notifications if you want to see more. Also, don't forget that if you'd like some extra features and don't mind chucking me £1 a month, then it could be worth you considering my Patreon. There's a link down below in the description for you to get hold of that. Now then, with all of that out of the way, let's get on to a little bit of lore. O12 is an international representational and governing body, evolved from the UN, but with greater action and decision-making power. Endowed with a tactical police branch, Bureau Aegis, O12 is the arbiter, judge and jury of the human sphere. Protecting the weaker nations, preventing any form of abuse from the stronger ones, and controlling all international systems essential for the effective functioning of the sphere all lie within its purview. Its mission is to protect the whole of humanity and strive for its stability and progress. This is not an easy job, and O12 knows it, but it will never give up, much to the chagrin of some powers in the human sphere. Kappas are O12's main line infantry. They're good shooters, with BS-12 beating Ariadne, Yuqing, Nomads and Combined Army for line infantry, and only being equalled by Pano Fusiliers. They have most of the line infantry options you'd expect to see, including a nice cheap 1.5 points missile launcher, as well as a hacker, paramedic and lieutenant option. You'll find a selection of Kappas in the O12 action pack and an exclusive paramedic Kappa in the O12 paint set. There are also Kappas in the Starmada action pack, which is an N4 product. A light infantry sniper option available in a couple of different mine laying flavours. The Lynx is a great option for creating a backline screen to protect valuable units. Lay some mines to defend the area and scare your opponent with that sniper rifle in the reactive turn. However, at 3 points for the best version, the Lynx isn't super well costed, but that doesn't mean it isn't good. You'll find the pictured Lynx in the O12 Booster Pack Alpha. Deltas are a parachute unit, meaning you can deploy them onto the board during any turn, not just at the start. They also have some options as for where they can deploy when you do bring them on. They have good armour, okay shooting and a nice range of options. My personal favourite is the hacker variant, however, they also have a super interesting doctor variant that comes with a Yudbot that can also combat jump in with the Delta. There's a Delta in the O12 action pack, and the special doctor one appears in its own blister. O12 being a fairly shooty army, it should be no surprise to see another sniper here, however this one hits a bit different. Unlike the mine-laying Lynx, the Epsilon is an anti-stealth trooper sniper. With its MSV level 2, it's very good at hitting those tricky targets with high mimetism. Targets with low biotechnical shield will also want to keep their distance because all variants of the Epsilon carry a nanopulsar. Points-wise, at 2 to 2.5, it sits around where most snipers do, making this one an excellent choice. You'll find an Epsilon with multi-sniper rifle in the O12 action pack. Heavy infantry with mimetism -6, armour 4 and BTS 3 as well as 2 wounds. That's a pretty impressive batch of goodies. At 4 points a pop you might struggle to find a place for an Omega in your smaller games, but in bigger games they do some serious work. That heavy riot stopper is terrifying close up, and both the multi-rifle and HMG are great ranged options. Remember though, as I always warn, an unchecked hacker can hack your heavy infantry, instantly immobilising it, regardless of how many wounds it has. You'll find the only Omega sculpt in the O12 action pack. Beta Troopers are cool guys. If you've seen the movie Chappie with D'Antwoord in it, you'll have an idea of what these things are. Nimble with a 6-2 move, mimetism -3 and climbing plus, they also get a 5-inch dodge, meaning that when your opponent shoots at them, they can actually just close ground quicker. There's Hacker, Doctor and Spec Op varieties too. Again, they're not super cheap, so probably mostly see play in medium to larger games, but they're a good option on smaller maps too, where their movement and toughness makes them scary. Also, as always, beware hackers. Again, the Beta Trooper sculpt lives in the O12 action pack. Foyerbacks are scary guns. Foyerbacks with an extra shot, thanks to the +1 burst of a Gamma, are absolute terrors. Park this guy on a rooftop and watch him rain down hell on your opponent. He's also incredibly bulky with 6 armor, 6 BTS and 2 wounds. I like to make a Gamma with Foyerback my lieutenant sometimes and just force my opponent to throw troops at it for me to mow down. He is, however, a heavy infantry option, so remember to protect him from hackers, especially sneaky mimetism and camo hackers, which he has no special defences for past his high BTS. The Gamma also lives in O12 Action Pack. The Zeta is O12's Code 1 tag option. If this is your first faction overview, tag stands for Tactical Armoured Gear. It's basically a bloody big battlesuit bristling with heavy weapons and armour, and the O12 one exemplifies this. It's well costed and packs a ballistic nightmare in the form of the hyper-rapid magnetic cannon. It even has a great up-close defence with a heavy riot stopper. This is another good option for a hard-to-kill lieutenant or just a murderous gun platform that you can advance up the centre and force an answer to. As with all tags, this big guy comes in his own box. Razors are a skirmisher unit. They have camouflage and surprise attack, allowing them to pull off sneaky assassinations on your opponent's key units. They also have mimetism -6, making them very hard to hit for a lot of troopers. Each variety includes anti-personnel mines, which are again lovely for screening off parts of the board. A good all-round choice at 3 points per model. You're allowed up to 2 in a list too. You'll find the awesome looking Razor sculpt in the O12 Booster Pack Alpha. Gangbusters are a great midfield speed bump. Their multispectral visor makes them excellent at hitting passing stealth units. Their mimetism -3 and infiltration lets you put them where they need to be and helps keep them safe while they're there. The boarding shotgun variant is a bit limited in range, but there's also a combi rifle and light riot stopper variant for the same cost, if you want a more versatile loadout that sacrifices a tiny bit of power. The Gangbuster again lives in the O12 action pack, and for a fun bit of trivia, happens to be the first Infinity model I ever painted that actually belonged to me, the one before that being a commission. The Cyberghost can easily look a bit underpowered at first glance, but the reality is that it's just a very specific role player. The 14 whip gives its hacking attempts greater potency, so providing you keep them tucked out of the way, Cyberghost can be very handy. What's more, charging a Cyberghost can be risky business. Its paralysis CC weapon doesn't care how high your wounds or armour are, and it gives -3 to your combat rolls against it. 2 points is also pretty cheap if you're looking for a backline hacker. The Cyberghost model comes in its own standalone blister. If you've watched any of this series previously, you'll be aware that every Code 1 faction has a support pack, a doctor and an engineer, usually with servant remotes to help them. This is the case for O12 too, with both units having the option to take up to 2 servant remotes. Good whip and BTS3 make O12's offerings stand out. I'd like to take an engineer if I'm running a Zeta, just to keep it in the fight. All of these lovely miniatures come bundled together in the O12 support pack. And again, as with all C1 factions we've looked at so far, there is also an offering of 4 different flavours of remote. The Millicent is a great way to field a cheap missile launcher. The Oko has the specialist operative ability, meaning it can claim objectives that other units can't. Kitta is essentially a cheerleader, adding an order to your pool but not really doing a bunch else. My personal favourite though is the Peeler. With a 360-degree visor and total reaction, Peelers get to fire their heavy machine gun at its full burst rating, even during ARO. This makes them a very scary gun platform, and if you can give them a good perch, they'll do some serious work for their points cost. Copperbots come in their own box containing 2 models. Cycops are an interesting little unit. They're statted with decent ballistic skill and very high BTS, making them good anti-hackers. Their loadouts give them a multispectral visor option to challenge opposing mimetism, a hacker profile, or even just a basic version of the unit. However, all 3 profiles also include a +1 burst nanopulsar. This could make them terrifying up close against the right units. Costing is also pretty good at 1.5 to 2 points, and you're allowed up to 2. These are a unit that doesn't really excel at anything, but they're very flexible for filling a gap in your list. They also have Specialist Operative and Mimetism -3 to extend the jobs that they can do even further. You'll find your Cycop in O12 Booster Pack Alpha. And the final unit we'll look at today are Crushers, a great medium infantry option that seems designed to just bother your opponent at any opportunity. All profiles benefit from decent BS, armour and biotechnical shield, as well as Mimetism -3 to make them harder to hit, and Specialist Operative to let them push those buttons. In terms of profiles, you get 2 flavours of forward deploying Crusher with different weapons, and then a combat jump parachutist version with a boarding shotgun for getting up close and personal. You'll find a couple of Crushers in the Star Marder action pack, as well as a single Crusher in O12 Booster Pack Beta. So with all of that said and done, that gives us a nice little overview of the mainline units, at least for O12 in Code 1. They're generally regarded by most players as being a fairly beginner-friendly army because they have a very straightforward approach to what they're trying to do and some pretty good equipment for their points costs. They have good guns, they have a good selection of heavy units, they have plenty of nice fast units. It's just pretty straightforward stuff. So why don't you let me know in the comments below if O12 seems like the faction for you? They certainly seemed like the faction for me when I first started getting into Infinity, and I have a hell of a lot of love for them. I'd love to know your thoughts on O12. Next up in the series though, we're going to be looking at the Alien Combined Army, a faction that I have very little experience with. So I look forward to seeing you soon for that one. But until then folks, thank you so much for watching, and bye bye for now.